We have Megan Rowe. Megan Rowe is a senior in graphic design who keeps very busy. Alongside her coursework, she curates, she engages in UX design sprints, and is a freelance designer and copy editor. The paper she's presenting today is called You're Grounded, Abstaining from Tech, Summer Camp Style.
Hi, thank you everybody for being here. Today I'll be presenting a paper I wrote about the burgeoning trend of digital detoxing. As a note, all the images in my presentation come directly from the digital detox camp that I profiled in this paper. Nestled in the coastal hills of Mendocino sits Camp Grounded, a summer camp for adults where a group of over 300 adult-only campers will pay over $570 to have their phones, laptops, and all other digital devices taken away from them for 3 days. Welcome to camp. Weekend after weekend, adults will gather en masse to digitally detox in the hopes of quote-unquote disconnecting to reconnect. Camp Grounded founder Levi Felix started the camp after years of a high-stress Los Angeles job landed him in the hospital with a torn esophagus. Reeling from the anxiety of modern life, or as former Camp Grounded attendee and New York Times writer Matt Haber describes it, the ever-accelerating conveyor belt of content deemed necessary to check and stay current on every day, Felix and his partner Brooke Dean traveled around South Asia for several years. After they returned, Felix began hosting small digital retreats and eventually, at the ripe old age of 28, founded Camp Grounded with Dean in 2012, aiming to create a utopian getaway free from digital technology and the stress that so often accompanies it. My goal is to connect people, Felix said in the 2013 New York Times article, A Trip to Camp to Break Tech Addiction. Says Felix, there's always going to be more media and more to do outside of where you are. The only moment that matters is now. Built as pure, unadulterated camp for grown-ups on its website, the Camp Grounded franchise has since expanded from its original camp in Mendocino to include campsites in New York, Texas, and North Carolina. Unplugging at Camp Grounded isn't cheap. The least expensive ticket for a 3-day stint at camp costs over $500, with the higher-end tickets, which buy you the option of bunking in the co-ed tent village, running upwards of $770. The original Camp Grounded is situated on former Boy Scouts quarters, tucked deep off the grid in the coastal hills of Mendocino, in a private 2,000-acre old-growth forest. Upon entering Camp Grounded, after driving down a dusty gravel road, campers are subjected to a tech check, wherein they're given one last chance to hurriedly update their Facebook statuses, tweet any final thoughts, and ultimately surrender all of their digital devices: phones, laptops, iPads, Fitbits, the works. The Camp Grounded staff don hazmat suits and wrap caution tape around their digital detox outpost, where campers watch a Scared Straight style video on the harms of device use before having their devices bagged and stashed away. The sterility of the white hazmat suits, the sharp orange biohazard logo on the plastic bags that all devices are stuffed into, and the cat's cradle of yellow caution tape against the idyllic forest background heightens the ceremony of unplugging for campers and lends an air of mock authority to an otherwise silly weekend. After campers are digitally disinfected and virtually vaccinated, they're greeted with gluten-free vegan cookies and non-dairy beverages while they choose their camp names. In addition to relinquishing all of your devices, you give up your name for the duration of camp as well. Camp Grounded founder Levi Felix goes by Fidget Wigglesworth, and previous campers' names include Lala, Nacho Supreme, Madam Sparkle Pants, Jedi Dinglehopper, Sweet Thing, and Chiquita. After choosing their new names, campers are given a rundown of the 8 rules of Camp Grounded. They are as follows. 1, no digital technology. 2, leave time behind. 3, no W talk, that's work talk for the uninitiated camper. 4, age doesn't matter. 5, no drugs or alcohol. 6, no wearables. 7, adults only. And 8, no glow sticks, glitter, or bright blinky lights. Along with these rules, another main tenet of Camp G is encouraging their campers to be vulnerageous, a combination of vulnerable and courageous. A notion that probably comes in handy when choosing a camp name without inhibition loosening drugs or alcohol, or swallowing the ticket price for a few tech-free days. I was curious about the typical attendee of Camp Grounded and how they were marketed to. The average Camp Grounded attendee is described this way on the campgrounded.org website. Campers are students, CEOs, musicians, artists, bankers, writers, dancers, Wall Street investors, architects, clowns, bakers, actors, managers, angel investors, farmers, etc. Apparently, it's a diverse group where clowns and Wall Street investors alike strip themselves of their technology and their names, and symbolically their differences, to disconnect to reconnect. The camp is marketed with intentional vintage flair, and the website and printed collateral both lean hard on a 70s summer camp aesthetic. Using that retro jumping off point, the Camp Grounded logo resembles a Boy Scout patch, depicting a majestic redwood tree backlit by a goofy, oversized sunburst in hues of burnt orange and lemonade yellow that wouldn't feel out of place on the Mad Men set. Rightfully so, the target demographic of a Camp Grounded attendee is 30 to 50 years old, meaning the 1970s most likely holds a nostalgic appeal and shimmer of childhood for these campers. The nostalgic push extends to the campground as well. The former Boy Scouts quarters hark back to a sanitized, fantastical memory of America that never quite existed. Photo-opportunistic visual details of the campground seem culled from a Wes Anderson film. For example, the shooting range has been converted into a typewriter range, the crack of gunfire replaced by the ding of typewriters as campers write home. All camp communications, from the hand-sharpied mailboxes to the burlap and rough wooden signage, reinforce the DIY lifestyle that Camp Grounded preaches. The guiding values behind Camp Grounded fit within the context of many utopian endeavors throughout American history as well, prizing a return to simplicity and community while shunning modern technology and its accompanying angst. Groups like the Shakers, the art and crafts movement, or the pre-Rothlight Brotherhood come to mind. All rejected their current moment in history in favor of an idealized version of life. This brand of idealism rings hollow at Camp Grounded, though, right down to the aforementioned logo for the camp. All sunburst in redwood, it seems a little too eager and naive for this complex, changing time in our country, where the message reverberating through the streets is more hands up, don't shoot than it is kumbaya. Back to camp. With all of their newfound free time, campers can roam the 2,000-acre campground, which offers a playground of creeks, nature groves, trails, bridges, and secret hideaways. There's a redwood climbing wall, 2 basketball courts, a baseball diamond, an outdoor amphitheater, and an arts and crafts barn. Campers can also participate in a number of eye-roll-inducing activities and FOMO-free play shops, including laughter yoga, cuddle therapy, Lego building, primitive skills, trust fall baptisms, ukulele 101, and candle making. When a vigorous laughter yoga session works up a camper's appetite, they can head to the canteen, which serves up a smorgasbord of gluten-free, dairy-free, grass-fed, vegan, paleo delights, including delicacies like sustainable grilled cheese sandwiches and local kombucha on tap. Despite Camp Grounded's best efforts to evoke the feel-good associations of summer camp, there's a self-congratulatory element of this service that no amount of laughter yoga or local kombucha can remedy for me. I can't shake the sense that the driving need for this camp is as forced as the campers' temporary nicknames. Manufactured silliness as an antidote to the drudgery of real life strikes me as more saccharine than solution-based. There's also an aura of pressure and expectation around the camp, as in, Camp Grounded needs to be a transformative experience in order to be deemed successful and worth a steep price tag. Campers flock to digital detox retreats with the hope that they'll be cured of their digital dependency and will then be re-released into the world with a fresh Zen outlook on life and a mental stockpile of meaningful moments around the campfire, late-night personal insights, and color war camaraderie. Also, every camper, by virtue of sequestering themselves in the woods for an expensive tech-free weekend, is essentially saying, I'm too important to be unreachable for even a day, and therefore must make an event out of unplugging my devices. Or, my tech addiction is so out of control that I need to resort to drastic measures to relearn how to be present again. Whatever the sentiment behind a camper's reason for packing their duffel and heading to Camp Grounded, there seems to be a unified core behind each. Enough is enough. This self-important bravery is anything but. Camp Grounded is priced out of reach for most. That certain level of exclusivity and cachet might even appeal to the wealthier campers. An overpriced camp environment that facilitates unplugging and reconnecting is a luxury that few would-be campers can afford, and with few work-study, scholarships, or income-based admission fee options, only people of a certain tax bracket can afford to have a freewheeling, W-free weekend at Camp Grounded. Of course, there's always the free option of putting your phone in a drawer, or camping without reception, or turning your laptop off for the weekend. But new converts of Camp Grounded argue that the temptation of their devices would still beckon. It's very hard to put your phone away knowing that you can always pick it up, says Anastasia Savina, a former Camp Grounded attendee. Felix himself says, you don't have to pay money to disconnect. But ultimately, he and Savina are in agreement. People who try to digitally detox on their own are likely to feel the pressure to just pick up their phones and interact with people online, he says. Camp Grounded strives to offset that temptation for a few days by offering up a plethora of play shops, activities, and challenges, and genuinely tries to create the space for real conversations free of W talk to happen between campers. I had the opportunity to step away from the modern world for a little bit, says Felix. I came back because my cause was to show people how to connect and how to shed these rules and unwritten codes we bought into. He continues, people are feeling like something's not right here. I get that, and I commend Felix after feeling burnt out himself, encouraging others to rest and reconnect at Camp Grounded. The New York Times writer Matt Haber, former Camp Grounded attendee, writes, by removing the things that supposedly connect us in this wireless, oversharing, humble bragging age, the founders of Camp Grounded hoped to build real connections that run deeper than following one another on Twitter or liking someone's photo on Instagram. Agreed. It's possible that younger campers especially feel that they can finally breathe, bolstered by the anonymity and freedom of a camp nickname, or be truly vulnerageous without fear of someone recording them on a phone and uploading it to the internet for all time. Disposable cameras are the only piece of moment capturing allowed, so any photographic memories of camp will appropriately be in an anti-digital format. Our mission is to reevaluate our relationship with our digital technology, said Felix, and ultimately, life off the grid is not the end goal of the retreat. It's not about not using technology, it's about being in control of using it, he says. It's all about what you do when the devices are gone. Despite this well-intentioned effort to rethink our attachment to digital devices, yet another unshakably troubling element of the camp is its short-term tech abstinence approach to digital devices. The Atlantic ran an article titled Camp Grounded, Digital Detox in the Age of Techno-Anxiety, in which author Alexis Madrigal says, I refuse to accept that the only good response to an imperfect technology is to abandon it. I agree. Ironically, if campers want to stay in touch or reminisce about their time at camp after it's over, they'll most likely have to reconnect digitally. Writer Chris Collin attended Camp Grounded and chronicled his experience at camp for The New Yorker, saying, by the next day, a nostalgic Camp Grounded Facebook group had been born. Campaigning news. The group's members seemed torn, wanting to relive every little moment from a moving weekend, but also wanting to remember, hey, don't Facebook so much. Wouldn't it be more helpful and in the long term realistic to teach campers how to balance their tech dependency and integrate digital devices into their lives in a healthy way, instead of retreating to an extreme camp where counselors in mock hazmat suits confiscate all of your devices? But then again, Camp G, with its whimsically nicknamed campers and cuddle therapy, doesn't necessarily deal in realism. And let's be honest, the free-range, feel-good vibes of Camp Grounded are hard to find back in the tough, tech-ridden real world, which keeps campers coming back for more. And at $570 a pop, that's enough money to afford a bacchanalian quality of sustainable grilled cheese sandwiches and local kombucha for a long, long time.